Welcome in to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew. Dramatic pause. No Mike this afternoon. Mike is not able to be here on a Victory Tuesday because it's hunting season, I guess. So hopefully that won't affect other people who are usually here, but we'll just have to make do with who shows up. And it is a Victory Tuesday. But let's start with some news and notes from around the NFL and see if there's anything, quote unquote, worth talking about. I guess where I'll start is the Jets fired their GM. Not a surprise, I suppose. And they indicated that they did so that they could start talking to potential GM hires. But like anybody that, most of the time you're going to hire somebody who is currently on an NFL roster, and you can't do that until the regular season ends. So I don't know why the Jets decided to do things the way that they do them. That's one of the reasons I don't like the Jets. They don't make a lot of sense. So Cowboys are bad. I don't know if that's news. Some people got hurt, I suppose, but not much in the way of interesting news in and around the NFL outside of the Detroit Lions. But guess what? Good news. This is a Detroit Lions podcast. So let's go ahead and talk about the Detroit Lions. And they played the Jacksonville Jaguars in Detroit on Sunday. And if anybody ever wants to know what I consider to be watching a fun experience, watching football is, it's what happened on Sunday. So let's go through some stats here. Mike usually does all this stuff for me, so you're gonna have to bear with me as I kind of get used to doing it. Let's see. Let's do this. And then let's add that to the stage. All right. And then let's do what I always yell at Mike about, which is to make this bigger. All right. We've got just a ridiculous stat line here. Let's just start with the team stats. Lions had 38 first downs. Jags had 10. Relatively huge discrepancy. Lions were 6 for 10 on third down, which is always a great sight. 3 for 3 on fourth down. They ran almost, no, that's wrong. They ran, 29 more plays than the Jags did. Jags had 170 yards. Detroit had 645. In the same number of drives, which is just a stat that I think is unbelievable. As I'm trying to scroll down the page here when I'm sharing it. Let's do this. All right. Some of these stats are just so indicative of how far the team has come in these last 3 years. So the average yards per pass, 13.6. It looks like 4.3 for the Jags. Jags threw a pick. Lions were clean on turnovers. That's awesome. Held the Jags under 50 rushing yards. They had almost 200. Committed fewer penalties, although for more penalty yards, fewer turnovers. And they held the ball for almost 2/3 of the game. It's just a sequence of statistics that is kind of shocking to me, at least. You don't usually see discrepancies like this. And I know Detroit was something like a 14.5 point favorite. And I don't remember if I made this prediction on screen on the last week's show or not, but I was thinking that the final score would be something like 38-9, something like that. And it was worse, So it's just incredible to predict like a 29-point victory and be off by so much, to be off by 17 points. So excellent job by the Lions. There was literally no phase of this game that they were clearly not the better team. And I really recommend that if you guys are not listening to Eric Schlitt at Pride of Detroit, he has a podcast that I believe comes out on Thursdays that previews, not only reviews the last week's game, much like we do here at Building the Pride, but like reviews last week's game and looks ahead to next week's game. That has just been such a wonderful tool for me to help understand this Lions team better. And like, that's what we're trying to do here, I think, at Building the Pride, is we're trying to basically we're trying to understand why the Detroit Lions have become so good. And it's, to be honest, like it is difficult for me to see it's difficult for me to really understand how good this team has become, because I've been so used to my whole life them being the kind of team that Jacksonville was this last Sunday. And I think there's a lot of similarities between where Jacksonville is this season and where Detroit was at the beginning of the Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes administration. And to see the kind of growth that the team has had over those last 3-4 years has just been unbelievable. And it's possible. It's possible for teams to get better in the NFL, even teams that have been quote unquote cursed or just straight up bad for decades, 50, 60 years. So it's been pretty exciting to witness. I'm pretty happy. I was loving it on Sunday, and let's just kind of get into it a little bit. So Mike, who was hunting and has quote unquote no bandwidth, says he thought that was Goff's best game of the season, even better than his perfect game. So one of the things I kind of want to talk tonight about is Jared Goff. And we can get into that later, I suppose, but there was just nothing. There's really nothing much to say about the game, because Detroit was just better at it than Jacksonville. Jacksonville's best part of their team, in my opinion, is their defensive line. You have Josh Hines-Allen, you have Trayvon Walker, you have Eric Armstead. Like, that is a decent defensive line for anybody in the NFL. And they couldn't do anything. They couldn't pressure Goff. They couldn't affect him. Couldn't stop them. And one thing that I was looking for in this game was how well Detroit's skill players matched up against Jacksonville's linebackers. And Jacksonville has quote unquote good linebackers. They have Olakun and Devin Lloyd, who was a first round pick at linebacker. But those guys couldn't cover stone obelisks if the Detroit Lions put them out in the slot. They're just all three of Jacksonville's linebackers are run stoppers. They are there to fill gaps, make tackles, and stop the run. And it's something that Detroit has, especially this regime in Detroit, has said that they've wanted to try and do since they started here. Is like stopping the run is a major issue for us. Like, that's something we want to build the defense on to make teams one-dimensional. And it's been a tried and true, policy or like tactic of NFL defenses for as long as I've been alive, is to stop the running game. And Jacksonville could not do it. And I guess one thing that we should probably get into now is that Mike and I usually do like the player grades, and we can do that. But I do want to share something from Sumer Sports that I thought was interesting. This is their mid-season all-pro team. Hey, what's up, Jeremy? Not a lot of teams will stop this running game. Well, we're going to talk about that right now. I think, Jeremy, it's a little bit get some quote unquote context here. So this is Sumer Sports, which is a football analytics website, kind of like PFF, a little bit different take. Their midseason all-pro team. So let's just jump into it. Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. All right. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Kind of hard to argue. All right. So when does Detroit get involved in this? Well, here we are. Wide receiver. First team, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if Sumer Sports was the NFL, this would be Amon-Ra St. Brown's second first team all-pro election. So the kid is still on a rookie deal as a fourth round pick. How many GMs in the NFL can say that they found a two-time all-pro? And I know this doesn't count, but like how many people can say they found a two-time all-pro in the fourth round? It's pretty great. Tight end, Brock Bowers is taking the NFL by storm. George Kittle is a near consensus all-pro. And then we've got Penei Sewell coming in as the second team all-pro right tackle. And I have a little bit of a problem with this. Like, I think that Tristan Wirfs and Lane Johnson are great. But I don't hear anybody talk about Tristan Wirfs and Lane Johnson like at a national level, like the way that they do about Penei Sewell. And Penei Sewell, and I know this isn't official, but he scores. I believe that he scores better than both of those guys. Maybe not Lane Johnson. And we'll take a look at it here in a little bit about he scores better on PFF overall grade than I think everybody on this list except for Lane Johnson. And he looks like the future of the position. Okay, but he's still a second team all-pro is nothing to sneeze at. First team all-pro at guard. Look at here, Kevin Zeitler. We signed Kevin Zeitler. Let me just make sure I've got this information correct here. In this offseason for I think it was $6 or $7 million. Ads, the worst thing in the whole world. Nothing's worse than ads. I'm just looking it up here real quick. Where are you, Kevin? Where are you, Kevin? I cannot find Kevin. There he is. Kevin Zeitler, $5.9 million. This is the same offseason that saw guards, a handful of guards get signed for $15 or $16 million. And Broderick Martin. Iffy, I don't think is long for the roster, unfortunately. Has his 8-year his 8 YH game. I don't know what YH. Eighth game of these. Okay. I got you. So Kevin Zeitler, first team. So we have a second team all-pro at right tackle, a first team all-pro at right guard, and then a second team all-pro center. So that's the right side of the line. The center to the right side of the line are basically all pros. Here we are at edge defender, and I know that he's hurt, but I have a hard time believing that if he was not hurt, Aiden Hutchinson wouldn't be a first team all-pro and likely defensive player of the year if he had continued on a path anywhere approaching the first 6 games of the season. He was absolutely dominant in those performances. And we don't have anybody at interior defensive linemen. But I do think that Aleem McNeil is close to this level. No linebackers there yet, although Jack Campbell is playing much better this season than he did last season. Cornerback might be the weak part of the defense, but I think it's overall much improved, and I think that's really shown up. And here we go. Brian Branch, first team All-Pro at safety. Kirby Joseph, second team All-Pro at safety. So that is, let's just kind of run through the list here. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Frank Ragnow, Zeitler, Penny Sewell, and then you had Branch and Joseph. 6 guys that are either first or second team all pros on this roster. Hey, and I firmly believe that Hutch would have been the defensive player of the year, even if he'd slowed way down. I mean, he'd been hurt for a month, and he was still in the top 5 in pressures in the NFL and sacks. So I mean, like, it's kind of amazing to sit back and think, like, if given, they had 6 All-Pros, they might have had 7th plus the defensive player of the year. Like, the team was considering that the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, looked a lot like the Jacksonville Jaguars did 3 years ago, to where they are now is nothing short of, like, miraculous, in my opinion. As a person who has rooted for quote unquote bad football teams in the NFL his whole life, the fact that there's this many good players who, yes, and Jake Bates and Jack Fox could easily be, Pro Bowl or All Pro at their positions, So I believe that Jake Bates has only missed 1 extra point and no field goals all year. I could be wrong. I can't remember him missing a field goal at least. Jack Fox would have had an opportunity to make a case for being an All-Pro, except that the Lions didn't punt yet on Sunday. Their first 7 drives were touchdowns. They had 1 in there for, thank you, Jeremy. Jeremy's my stat guy. They first 7 drives were all touchdowns. They kicked a field goal, I think, on their 8th drive, and I don't think they punted. So, just a marvel of offensive efficiency. It's wonderful to see. There's nothing I can think of that's made me, Michigan winning the national championship last year and when I was 15 are better for me personally, because I prefer college football to professional football. But Jack Fox is the best holder ever. He's really good. He's really good at it. Yeah. He's had to handle a couple of iffy snaps. Remember, we have a new long snapper this year, Hogan Hatton, I believe, right? And I don't know if he's a rookie or if it's just his first year long snapping, but like he's done a pretty good job. But like Fox has had to bail him out once or twice, and that makes a big difference. Laces out, that type of thing. So, if you guys remember Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, classic movie. But yeah, it was just a display. 1 on the missed extra point. Yeah, it was just a display that kind of makes you sit back and just kind of be in awe of it, because not only are the Lions finally a dominant team in the NFL, but they are dominant in such a way that it hasn't typically happened like that, even for other dominant teams. And it's starting to make me really hope that this is the year for them. Like, if you look at like years past, there's usually been a team at this level or close to this level in the NFC. Like, typically that's been San Francisco, maybe Green Bay have been exceptional teams. Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. And those teams don't really exist in the NFC. Like I used to hear this saying that people would make, like if you get on a bus and you look around and you can't tell who the sucker is, you're the sucker, right? Because but now when I look around the NFC, at least, I don't see anybody else that's like the dominant team. And like I start to look around and I'm like, oh, it's us. We are them. We're the dominant team now. We're the front runners. We're the betting favorites. We're the team that has, a 2-game lead to get the number 1 seed in our conference. And like, I'm beyond thrilled about that because you'll get to miss one playoff game, because you'll have a bye, and the other ones will be at home for you. And like, I thought Detroit played really well in the first half last year in the NFC Championship game, but you're in San Francisco. And like, I don't know how much that mattered, but I would rather be in Detroit. So Jeremy, that kind of, what that is, that's gross. I don't know. I know that he's been hurt on and off all season, shoulder and arm injuries. And to me, this would be the kind of move that teams do if they were, quote unquote, like subtly tanking. Like, oh, like this guy's hurt. We're going to set him down in order to, make sure that he has the time and resources to like effectively recover. And let's see, conference standings. So Detroit is 9-1. Philly and Minnesota are 8-2. So, god damn, the point differential is immense. But like, I think that I would feel a lot better if Philly and Minnesota dropped a game. I gotta give Minnesota credit. Like, they're still hanging in there. Like, I don't know that I necessarily thought that they were for real due to poor play since getting healthy. Sure. I mean, I so rarely hear NFL coaches say, we're sitting him down because he's played terribly. I'm sure that that's the reason why it happens, but like, I don't hear many coaches like come out and say that. And so, I mean, it's probably, I think that it's part of the reason why Jonah Jackson was allowed by the Lions to go into free agency. I don't believe that he was not a Brad Holmes draft pick. He was a Bob Quinn draft pick. And so I think there's a little less allegiance to him than, say, Brad's guys. And yeah, I think so too, Jeremy. I don't think that Jonah Jackson was necessarily, quote unquote, a Brad Holmes guy. I think that Brad respected him and consider him like a decent player while he was here. But I mean, I would so much rather have Graham Glasgow at like $7 million, $7.5 million, and then signing Kevin Zeitler, who's like the third-rated guard in the NFL, for like $6 million. I mean, the Lions guards, and Graham Glasgow is certainly not having a great year this year, but Zeitler sure is. And to get both of those guys for what it costs a lot of people to sign, like a Jonah Jackson or like a Robert Hunt in this offseason, is remarkable. Like, Mike and I talk about positional value, and we've also talked like, how valuable are these positions? Like, how much should you be paying for a starting guard in the NFL? And the other thing that you have to remember when it comes to positional value is that, like, if you just hit on guys, it doesn't really matter, because the guys that you have on the team are effective. And like, that's the thing that I think Brad Holmes has done that has been so unbelievably incredible is that he's hit on guys in all areas of the draft. Like Rodrigo is starting in place of Alex Anzalone right now because unfortunately Alex broke his forearm and he's out for at least a month, probably closer to 2. And he's going to have to step up. You know, the Lions have lost Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and now Alex Anzalone for either the season or significant time this season. And they are effectively down to two linebackers on the roster that they kept. They kept Campbell and Rodrigo in addition to the 3 guys I named, and have since added guys like Neiman, Nowatzki, and asked them to do certain things. So with 3 years control, Barnes is out for the year, yeah. So with 3 years of control, cheap control with Zadarius Smith, I still think we have a look at left tackle or D. So Jeremy, how are we arriving at 3 years of control? Because do they have him on over the cap yet? Zadarius Smith, come on down. There he is. He is signed. I'm showing that he's under contract this year and next year, and then has 3 void years after that. So are you basically including like tags? Yeah, he has 25. No, he has 24 and 25 under contract. And then 26 is a void year per over the cap. So was it Brad Holmes UDFA last season? Makes sense. So he's got this year and next year from what I'm looking at. So maybe Spot Track has it different or something, but I certainly think that he's probably going to get a 1 or 2 year extension. I would not be surprised if he got like a 1 or 2 year extension. Not only so that they can retain him, but because I think that wouldn't re-signing him allow them to spread out the void years the way that remember he was poached by the Cardinals? Nowatzki? I do not remember that he was poached by the Cardinals. I'm sorry. I don't have that close a watch on. Is it Trent Nowatzki? Something like that. Sorry, I don't really know his first name. But I'm glad that he was poached by the Cardinals. Aren't they? Isn't like a UDFA or a practice squad player, when they get signed to another roster, aren't they guaranteed like 3 game checks? So it's guaranteed. It's in a way Trevor Nowatzki. Yeah. Isn't it in a way like effectively like a mini guarantee like for the next month if you get signed off a practice squad? I think there's some provision like that. But anyways, let's jump into some. Mike and I love PFF grades, so let's jump into that. I'm getting better at this. Let's share, then let's go back here and let's add it to the stage. And then let's go back to here and then make it bigger because I'm always telling Mike to do that. Okay, so Jared Goff's had a couple really great games. He's up to 18th on the overall PFF score for the year. For quarterbacks, we'll just kind of run through the positions here real quickly. Wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown sitting at 4th with an excellent grade. Jamison Williams is 37th. We got Khalif right down here at 45. So we have 3 wide receivers in the top 50, and then one, I guess, technically these 2 guys, T. Higgins and A.J. Brown, are tied. But, like, look at the snaps for Amon-Ra St. Brown compared to almost everybody else in the top 10. So Nico Collins was hurt, 272. T. Higgins, hurt, 305. Brown, hurt, 386. 357, 373, 397. Justin Jefferson's the only other guy in the top 10 that has anywhere near the number of snaps that St. Brown has. In fact, he has more than that by about a game's worth. But like, St. Brown is playing almost twice the number of snaps as these other guys in the top 10 and performing better. I think that matters because it's harder to do that over the long term. Running backs, we've got my boy, David Montgomery, sitting here at 8th. Jahmyr Gibbs right behind him at 13th, but a difference of 79. Oh, wait, I'm reading this wrong. 82 and 79. They're both playing exceptionally well. I will continue to go down that David Montgomery is the slightly more important player because of things like down and distance and just getting the offense into the groove, even though I'll concede that Gibbs is by far the more explosive player. So fine. I'm glad that they're both on our team. Not going to do fullbacks because, come on, not a real position in the NFL anymore. Sam Laporta still coming in at 13th overall tight end in the NFL. He's not had the kind of year that I thought he might have in a sophomore outing, but he's still an excellent player and someone that the defense has to really pay attention to. Otherwise, he's going to destroy you like he did against Houston. Love having him on the team. He's proven to be an exceptional asset, and I think he's way better than that grade indicates, and hopefully next year he will be. We're moving over to centers. Here's Frank Ragnow, second overall center. There's a tier amongst themselves, Creed Humphrey and Frank Ragnow, and then there are, the tier below them. The thing that I think is interesting about looking at centers in the NFL right now, I believe Creed Humphrey just got paid, so he's, just basically coming out of his rookie window. Linderbaum is still in his rookie contract. Frazier's a rookie. I don't know about Brewer or Frolt. Tittman is young. I think that Cam Jurgens sat for a year at number 10 overall, but there just aren't very many good centers in the NFL, So guards shouldn't be any crazy. Kevin Zeitler right here, number 3 overall, sitting at the top of the second tier guards in the NFL. Elite player, cheap as hell. Excellent signing by the Detroit Lions. And then if we scroll down, Glasgow's down here, I think a little ways. 49th. Not having the kind of year that he's used to. And his position, I know he's under contract, I think for the 2 years after this one, but he is in his, I think, getting close to his mid-30s. And I'm wondering if next year looks like this year if they decide to make a change. Penei Sewell's third-rated overall tackle, regardless of left or right tackles. And then Decker is just a little ways down here. A bit of a down year for Decker. He's had a couple of games where he's just gotten beaten cleanly, only once or twice, but pretty cleanly. And but still a starting caliber offensive tackle in the NFL. Really good player. Happy that he's been extended. Cornerbacks is going to look a little worse. Carlton Davis is tied for 19th, 72 overall. And then I don't think we have another cornerback in the top 50. So I'm hoping that changes next year with the development of Terry and Arnold. But this is so much fun. Boom. Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, 1 and 2 in the NFL. That's sexy. I love seeing this. Kirby Joseph is currently either leading the NFL in interceptions or tied for the lead in interceptions in the NFL. He's killed multiple drives. So is Brian Branch. Branch is just playing well, laid up a huge hit on a Jacksonville Jaguar this week to start the game. Really kind of set the tone. Just an excellent player. Love having. Can't believe he lasted until 45. Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, 11 and 12. I mean, that's pretty great. Jack still got an opportunity to get to 80 overall, which is kind of was one of my bet for the season, is that he would effectively be an 80 overall linebacker, which puts him like firmly right around top 5. Alex, probably done for the regular season, maybe not quite that. good starters grade, 30th overall linebacker, which is still a starting linebacker in the NFL. Unfortunately, he's hurt. Thor, come back to us. We've got Aleem McNeil sitting right here at 6th interior defender in the NFL. He just got paid. And then here's DJ Reader at 33 and Levi Nwuzurike, who has had, this is the best season of on Nwuzurike's career. And it finally looks like he's healthy. He's played 416 snaps across 10 games. So he's getting 41? No, that's not right. Isn't it? Yeah, 41 snaps a game. Seems a bit high. But he's contributed, and I think that if the Lions drafted him and he's contributing, they're going to give him an opportunity to continue to contribute. So I'll just believe it when I see them cut a guy that was one of their picks. Here's Aiden Hutchinson. Poor Aiden Hutchinson. Injured, but look what he was doing. This is just insane. And then Zadarius Smith sitting right here. He's a starting caliber edge defender. I'm just not used to seeing people on these lists. And then I don't think they track kickers and punters. Yeah. So that's kind of a bummer. But I got some stuff to catch up on. Let's see. Comiskey could be added to his. Oh, interesting. Played hurt for 3 games. Those were his bad games. Yeah. Kirby is awesome. Hey, Jerome. How you doing, buddy? How's life being 14 hours ahead? Give me the lottery numbers. Kirby has had 15 interceptions through 42 games, the most of any safety active in that time frame. And it's pretty crazy. Let's do this real quickly. Let's look up Kirby Joseph. Can I type? This angle is killing me. Why is he not coming up? So weird. There you are. View career and premium stats. Here, that's what I want to see right there. Now, I know some of you guys aren't PFF people. I get it. But that's the point of this, is not to hype PFF. The point is to try and to indicate something about draft picks. So let me see if I can share my screen here again. Okay. Let's add this to the stage. It's still not big enough. God, you do all this work. Here we go. Hopefully that's big enough. Yeah, okay. So this is what I want to look at down here at the bottom. He was taken in the 22 draft, right? So he was taken in the same class that Aiden and JMO were. Aiden, JMO, Pascal, and then Kirby, right? So I did see that, Mike. So all I care about is that he's healthy and ready to play next season. Team is playing great right now. There's no reason to rush him back. In the NFL, there is a desire for players to be good immediately. And I get it. That's helpful. But when it comes to rookies, any rookie from any class, you should give them 3 years in the NFL in order to effectively judge how they are doing, right? Perfect 80 degrees. On the beach, not jealous at all. Life's good. We are doing well. 91526. I appreciate that. All right. Well, I'm not going to leave you guys when I become rich and famous, or at least rich. I would definitely rather be rich than famous. But let's look at Kirby Joseph. Kirby Joseph, not wonderful his first 2 seasons, right? He had some picks. He sent Aaron Rodgers, off of Lambeau with kind of a disappointing memory. Yeah, that's a feather in your cap. I'll take that one. I'll keep that game ball. But this is the kind of player projection that if you're developing players correctly, this is what their development can look like. His rookie season, he's played 875 snaps. That's roughly a starter's grade. right? That's at your average level NFL starter. Next season, he plays a couple more snaps, didn't play as well. Coverage grade kind of reflects that. And then this season, he's lights out. I mean, he is almost 30 points higher than his best season to date. And that's just remarkable. And like, he is better against the run. That's steadily improved each year. His tackling is the best that he's ever seen. Again, like, I didn't think much of him as a tackler up until this season. Like, I thought that he basically didn't want to tackle, you know, and like, if he wasn't in a position to make a good tackle, he wasn't going to do it. But now it looks like he is. Now, is that just like him getting his body right? Did they teach him a new technique that they wanted to see him implement? I don't know. But like, something's different. And of course, where he is excelling right now is his coverage. He is covering better than he has ever covered. And so I went back and rewatched some of the Inside the Den episodes that the Detroit Lions social media team puts out. you know, Jeremy, I wonder really what it is, because the point that I was going to get to before I read your comment was Aaron Glenn has come out and said that if he's going to have a safety for his defense, he wants them to be able to tackle, to be instinctive, and he wants to give them the ability to roam. And this is why I think they moved Branch back to strong safety, not only because Ife Melifonwu is perpetually hurt, but he wants to put Branch in a position in order to do what Brian Branch thinks is the best thing to do. So he gives Branch and Kirby Joseph the latitude to say, okay, I think that this wide receiver is coming off of his route, or when they line up like this, the guy that I'm responsible for always runs a post, or something like that. And he's basically saying, like, if I know that my guy takes a step inside, he's blocking, but if he takes a step outside, he's running his route. So if Kirby Joseph sees his guy take a step inside, he's immediately on his secondary player that he's supposed to guard. And that kind of freedom, I think, allows Kirby Joseph. Have to run, time to do a show with my publisher. All right, man. Good luck. Have a good time on your show. Thanks for stopping by. But I think that like Kirby Joseph gets the kind of freedom to make these plays because A, that's what Aaron Glenn wants his safeties to do, and B, like, he's good at it. And that's why they took him. You know, and so, you know, I'm kind of thrilled, like, that this is the progression, so that, like, I'm looking for this from Jack Fox, like, I'm looking at this for Broderick Martin, I'm looking at this for, you know, name your Detroit Lions rookie contract player. So the more guys they find that can do this, the fewer roster spots they have, you know. So like Jeremy indicated that, you know, he thinks that Kirby's going to get 20 plus million in the offseason. So let's take a look at like what the average safety is making right now. So Antoine Winfield makes just over 21. Derwin James makes 19. Minka Fitzpatrick makes 18 and change. Xavier McKinney of the Packers this offseason got 16.75. So with their draft picks, the Lions have made them some of, if not the highest paid players at their position. Penny Sewell, Jared Goff, even though he wasn't a draft pick, Amon-Ra St. Brown, are all guys, well, the two guys really that they have basically, well, Lee McNeil too. Like, the ads are just killing me. All right, let's see. Interior defensive lineman Lee McNeil got over $24 million. He is the fourth highest paid interior defender in the NFL behind Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, and Nnamdi Madubuike from the Ravens. He got a little bit more than Derek Brown of the Panthers, who is 2 years older. So The Lions have a habit of paying guys who are playing well, quote unquote, ahead of schedule. And they usually pay them top 5 money because it's a lot right now, obviously. But then the next guys, hey, what's up, Hatters? The next guy that signs at that position group is probably going to get more. So, a year or two down the line, like the Lions might have, Lee McNeil might be the 8th highest paid interior defensive lineman, or what have you. And so, as long as that money is kind of sliding into the right percentage of the cap for their position, like I don't have a problem with it. So if Kirby gets $20 million at safety, you are probably going to have to pay Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, and Kirby Joseph. Top. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to get the largest non-quarterback contract in NFL history. And if you pay Kirby Joseph $20 million a year, let's say 3 or 4 years, then that's a lot of money. Now, I'm also on board as I've basically become like a cap doesn't matter kind of person. I think there are certain teams, certain owners, and certain situations that lead people to say, I'm uncomfortable paying that amount of money for quote unquote this player or this position or whatever. But if you're signing like the Graham Glasgow's and the Kevin Zeitlers of the world to $7 million, like you can pay Kirby Joseph $20 million. Like the thing that I'm curious about that I wanted to talk to Jeremy about a little bit before he had to go was what Jeremy said. He said something here about the roster. See if I can find it here really quickly. And I can't. That's fine. But like with a roster, maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was like Jerome or somebody. Doesn't matter. But like with a roster that has this few holes, I remember like Jared Goff 2 weeks ago threw 5 picks. Lions won that game against what looks like a division-winning playoff-bound team in Houston, who utterly humiliated Dallas in Dallas Monday night. Yeah. So like Detroit should have lost that game. I mean, like if you had stacked up what they did and it was any other team, would that team have won that game? I have a hard time saying they would have won it, but the Lions found a way to win it. So, it's good. So good. This week they went out and if the season ended today, Jacksonville would have the number one overall pick for the 3rd time in 5 years, and that's just gross. So they're bad. Lions beat the crap out of them. That's what you should do to bad teams. So the Lions look really good. Like you're making a ton of mistakes. You find a way to win. I am, and like I want to talk about that. There's so many things I want to talk about. I have a hard time trying to keep them all straight, but like I didn't have a lot of respect for people at the beginning of this regime who were just like quote unquote all in on it. Like there's a guy, David Pike, who was just like a Jared Goff super fan. And like I didn't respect like his reasoning or the way that he was talking about Goff. But like if I'm going to do this show with Mike and say things like the numbers say this, the results say this, like time in and time out, we see the same thing, like the grit, the culture, like having an impact. Like I was not a culture guy. I was a go get the most talented player and put them on the team guy. Because to me, I have always thought that talent wins out. And this is the only time I've ever paid attention to a professional football team quote unquote developing a culture that I think that I can say has actually translated to the field. Looks like the reality is drinking the Kool-Aid. Well, I mean, like, and that's just it, right? Like, if you don't believe in what you're seeing, and it's shown to you time and time again as this is working, this is what we're doing, this is how you can see what we're saying we're doing is working, and you go from 3 wins to 9 wins to 12 wins to being 9-1 with the opportunity to, like, if they beat Buffalo, should they not run the table? I mean, should this team, if they beat the Bills, which is a home game, I believe, if they beat the Bills, shouldn't this team win? I mean, even if they lose to the Bills, shouldn't this team be 15-2 at the end of the season? 15-2. Where I come from, like my MC multiverse timeline or whatever, like that's 3 years of the Detroit Lions playing football games. Right? So like 17, 18, 19 or whatever. I don't know if those were 5 wins apiece, but like it's close. You know, and like we're doing it in a single season. Like we've done more winning potentially in this season than I've seen in the last like 3 prior to this regime. You know, and it's like if this is like, I've always thought of the term as drinking the Kool-Aid as to like basically like mean like faith. Like you just have faith that this team's going to be good. Like you have the belief in absence of proof, right? And so like, I mean, but like Joseph, like I agree with you, but like look at the Houston game, and like this team to me, like the trauma that I have to get over with this team is that like they do that, like they beat themselves, but like go back at, I mean, I will go back and I watch like the sorry, one more time. Like I watched the Houston game and I'm like, well, that's the fourth pick. Why are the Lions coming back in the fourth quarter? It feels like the momentum's changed. You know, and like Goff threw 5 picks or whatever, however many are his fault. I don't care about that conversation anymore. But like he's 6 for 8 in the fourth quarter, and that's when the shit mattered. Because Houston couldn't pull away, because finally these scales on the Lions team are balanced. Like the offense is elite, but the defense is really fucking close, you know, to being elite. And that's with losing the preemptive best defensive player in football this season. Maybe not every season, but maybe this season, you know, and like, it's all of it. It's all of it. So like, let's talk about this kind of Kool-Aid thing one more time. Like I didn't, when the team turned the organization over to Sheila, I didn't know anything about Sheila, right? Since then, I only know 2 things about Sheila. She made 2 great decisions. She hired Brad Holmes, and she actively got the organization to go back and mend fences with guys like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, Chris Spielman, these players who are icons in Detroit for like putting in all that work, all that hustle with the talent that they had on bad teams. And we respect them for it. We love them for it. Okay. But like, you had fans coming to the stadium with grocery bags on their head. And like, I have been watching football since I can remember. I watched it with my dad when I was a kid. I've just always watched football. And I had to take a break. I had to take a break right around the pandemic because I was like, I cannot handle the losing anymore. I just don't want my Sunday to be ruined, my Monday to be ruined, because the Lions found another way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I could not fucking handle it anymore, right? And so I can't drink the Kool-Aid from that place, right? So they hire Bob Quinn, they hire Matt Patricia. A lot of fans hate those guys' guts. I didn't really pay attention to the Lions during that administration because I had to just go watch football somewhere else. So I chose the Ravens because Jim Harbaugh was the coach of Michigan and his brother coaches the Ravens. So like when I watch the Ravens play, like it's kind of like watching professional Michigan football. Like the strategy and the way that they run the team and the way that they call plays is similar. So it felt at home to me. And then they hire when I heard that they were turning over ownership of the team to Sheila, that's the thing that got me to say, like, okay, I'll pay attention. Then I talked to Mike about maybe doing the show. He said yes. So now we have this great like partnership that he and I are doing where like we both bring our perspectives to the show. I think it's been successful. I love talking to you guys, but I couldn't have faith that this was the time that the Lions were going to be good. That after watching every regime from Matt Millen to the guy that came after Millen, who I can never remember his name, Martin Mayhew, to Bob Quinn, and watching the Fords treat the team like it was like a balance sheet item on their like organizational balance sheet or whatever. I couldn't just have faith. I'm the kind of person that needs to see it. You know, so like I leave like from watching ESPN, I go and I try and find like a Pro Football Focus, like tell me something about changing my perspective, right? And so I put my faith in numbers. Like let's try and boil this down so someone stupid like me can understand what's happening out there. I didn't play football. I just love watching it. Like it's a puzzle to me. And I always both kind of respected and rolled my eyes at the people who were just like, this is my team. I'm all in. Like, this will be great. And it'll be great because it's different. You know, I couldn't get there. But if I'm going to come on the show and talk to you guys and expect you to respect my opinion, when I see the Lions go out in consecutive weeks and win a game they shouldn't have, in my opinion, and then crush a team they should crush, play to the Lions level, not play down to Jacksonville's, those are different things from what I'm used to seeing the Lions do. And I have gone through too many drafts and off seasons just in this administration to try and figure out how they're approaching building this team to actually come out and say, like, I can no longer sit here and say Jared Goff isn't a good quarterback. He's not my preferred style of quarterback, but on this team with this system, he's excellent. Do I think he's an MVP? I do not. Do I think this is the best situation for him to be in the entire league? Yes, I do. You know, so like I have to change my opinion because it's been proven to me too many times. If I didn't change my opinion, I would just be a stubborn asshole. And like there's too many of those doing this kind of show. Martha actually tried to make some changes. We saw her more in her handful of years as the owner than we did in a decade of Willie. I think she got a raw deal for the Quinn hire. I don't know anything about the Quinn hire. So I'm going to take your word for it, Brian, because I wasn't paying attention to the team at that point. But I'm glad that Sheila's in charge. I have a lot of respect, which is as close as I'll say to having faith in somebody. I have in Sheila, right? Like, and I still think she doesn't get enough credit for the impact that she's had on the team. I love it that she's in the war room during draft day. And every single time the Lions make a draft pick, Brad Holmes calls the dude, Dan Campbell talks to him, and then Sheila is the last one that they talk to. It's not a stat or true. That's true. It's not. It's a narrative contest. But thank you for that. Sometimes you gotta check me a little bit, you know, because I can get on rants. But so I appreciate that. But she's in there doing the thing, like being a part of the team. Like I never thought that like the Fords were really quote unquote a part of the team. She's in the facility. Like she's hugging Brad and Dan, and she looks like she's a normal sized person for a woman, and they're enormous dudes, and it just looks like they look like they're twice her size because they literally are, and it's awesome that she's in there. Like, I respect her more for being on the phone, being in the war room, and like if you go back and you watch those inside the den, like during the draft kind of stuff, like inside the war room kind of stuff, like Campbell is in her ear about like, yeah, we're looking at this guy. This guy's got these kind of traits. That's why we want him. Like, she cares. Like, she wants to know. And like, I now finally feel like all of the pieces that like a winning Super Bowl winning organization, quote unquote, need to have, from all the way at the top to all the way at the bottom. Like, I don't know that you can talk about culture if it's just in the locker room. Because to me, it needs to start with the people who run the organization. And like, I think a great example of this is from the movie Moneyball, where Brad Pitt goes in to talk to his owner after they lose the World Series right at the beginning of the film. He was like, my bar is here. My bar is to win a World Series. This is, I need to get here. This is what I'm trying to do for you. That's my job. This is why you hired me. And he's trying to get the guy to give him more resources, money, try and get it done. And like, I always felt there was that kind of disconnect with the Lions my whole life. The Fords didn't care. The GMs were bad. The coaches changed, and the players suffered for it. And now the owner cares. The GMs are smart. The coaches are like inspirational, motivational speakers. And the players want to be there. Like, how often have we heard Jack Campbell was, after his rookie season, he's in the locker room, day one after the season ended, like getting his body right, watching film. Like, he looks like he's a transformed player. How many guys have you seen in 3 years adopt that approach? And it's like everyone around you is doing the exact same thing, and like, I think that matters. Like, if, so one of the greatest like stories of quote unquote like culture and being a leader, I think, came from Kobe Bryant, which I have kind of I respect Kobe Bryant as like a basketball player. And I think it was the 2012 Worlds or like Olympics. And the team is like, this was some documentary that I watched. It's probably a pretty popular one. And the team goes to like Europe to like go and play. And like Kobe Bryant couldn't be there. And the team's not really gelling or coming together. Kobe Bryant becomes available. USA Basketball asks him to go and be on the team. He shows up. And like day one, he's in the gym, the weight room at like 5 a.m. getting a workout in before the practice. He hasn't even really met with the team yet. Like, this is just how he conducts himself. So like, once he did that and word got out, the next day there's like 6 people there. And then the next day the whole team's there. And like, he's setting a trend. He's setting the tone. And like the Detroit Lions locker room has that now. It is surprising that it is the Lions. Like, I'm having a really difficult time, like, quote unquote, coming to Jesus about that fact, Brian. Like, it's surprising that it's the Lions. Because since they've been in the NFL, it hasn't been. It's almost 75 years that they've been in the NFL, and like, it feels like it's starting to really feel like this is their year. Like, somebody said, like, only the Lions can beat themselves. I don't really know who, I can't remember who said that, but like, when have you seen them do it? The Tampa Bay game in week 2, maybe? They've ripped off 8 consecutive wins. And it's like, I mean, I don't know that there are that many dominant teams in the NFL this year. So I'm struggling with like the accepting the fact, but like it's the facts are like in front of me. And it's even when presented with the information, it's like that rabbit and the duck picture. Have you guys ever seen that picture where if you look at it one way, it's a rabbit, and if you look at the other way, it's a duck, and it's just one picture, and the only thing that changes is your perspective on it, but you can come to these two completely different conclusions. Yeah, I mean, like it is a mathematical probability that would happen, but it just doesn't seem like it. You know, like that mathematical probability could be a decade from now. You know, so it's hard to kind of be like, wait a second, are we inside it? Are we living this moment right now? It feels so great. It feels so much better winning and having pride in like the team that you root for. It's nice. It's like a vacation from how I normally feel. You know, and like so I know Mike and I have had this conversation around the trade deadline. Like the Lions should go all in. They should go all in. Like they should go out and trade for a Max Crosby or a Myles Garrett if they're available. You know, and like my opinion was don't do that. And I think there's a real debate to have about that kind of move. But like I want to feel like this. I want to feel this way for 5-10 years, however long, and set this team up to no longer be a joke. I mean, I want to erase some of the I want little kids to grow up and be like, yeah, I've been watching the the Lions since I was 5 and I'm 15 now, and they've won 8 division titles and been in the playoffs, been to like 6 NFC championship games. They've been to the Super Bowl. Like, hopefully they got a couple wins. And like that's the kind of thing. Like, I want sustained, continued success. Like, I want to have a chance to go to the Super Bowl and win it every year. And like, we were 3 wins, then we were 9 wins, then we were 12 wins, and went to the NFC championship game. And now we're sitting here at 9 wins, and 12 looks like a foregone conclusion, let alone well past that. And I want this every season. No one ever wants to get worse. I just want to get better. Like, and that's the question that like I'm just killing myself right now is like, how's this team get better? How does this team get better? You have Decker extended, Sewell's is his extension's in, McNeil's extended, St. Brown's extended, Hutch is going to be, Goff's been extended. All ins are for windows that are closing. So what if you can just build the team so it doesn't close? Like teams like Pittsburgh has made the playoffs like 18 years straight, some ridiculous number. I want that. That's what I want. Like, people are finally like wanting to come to Detroit. Other players want to come and be a part of this. Like, the Lions organization has created something that is attractive to people who are not in Detroit. Zadarius Smith was like, yes, I want to go to Detroit. Trade me to the Detroit Lions. Other people like have talked about like, yeah, when I was a free agent, like I wanted to come here. Like like that is unusual for me to hear. And I love hearing it. So like I very much want to be a part of it. And I just want it to continue. So next week we have, who do we have? Who do we have next week? We have, I should know who it is. We're at the Colts. All right. Yeah, I agree, Brian. I think that's accurate. So They are going to Indianapolis, so it's inside. Anthony Richardson is the quarterback again of the Colts. Usually, like Tim Twentyman does like a really nice like matchup preview that he puts out on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It just sounds stupid. But that indicates like this is how the offense is performing, this is how the defense is performing. And I think that like Anthony Richardson could be a problem in the same way that Justin Fields used to be a problem. And the wide receiver, awkwardly, I think the wide receivers for the Colts kind of worry me. So you have Josh Downs, who's a good slot receiver. You have big big wide receivers, Michael Pittman. I'm shocked that it reminds you of the Red Wings, Mike. Shocked. I'm sitting here shocked. So you have big wide receivers in the kid they drafted out of Texas, who I can't remember his name. Michael Pittman's like 6'4", and Alec Pierce is a deep threat that has hurt other teams this season. So like, I think the cornerbacks are the weakest part of the secondary. I know that Davis had a cast on his thumb, I think, this last game, and that's probably not going to be all healed up in a week. A.D. Mitchell. Thank you. So I am a little bit worried about that. So I think, once again, the key, Jonathan Taylor is an excellent running back. I think the key to this game is you're going to have to stop Jonathan Taylor and force Anthony Richardson to make throws. And the Lions, with their defense, they want to create a box around the quarterback and like close it. So if you can keep Anthony Richardson inside the pocket and collapse the pocket, that's how they want to slow down every quarterback, not just Anthony Richardson. But like Anthony Richardson, I don't think has real. I mean, I know he led a game-winning drive against the Jets to beat them by a point last week. Fuck the Jets. But like, I don't know that Anthony Richardson has really demonstrated that he can win a football game. Right? So I would put as much of it back on Anthony Richardson as I possibly could. But I don't think their defense is going to be able to stop the Lions offense. Like, I think that, Monty and Gibbs will have 150 yards rushing, maybe more. I don't think they have anybody that can cover JMO or St. Brown. Hopefully Laporta's back for this game. That's another matchup piece that I think goes in their favor. And Tim Patrick, thank God. Hope someone can. Yeah, I think that like Branch will be the guy. Campbell's pretty. There's never been a more athletic quarterback than like RAS score is concerned than Anthony Richardson. Like that hasn't translated into his ability to really play the position, but like he is an unbelievable athlete. Size, speed, proportion, all that. I don't think Iffy Melifonwu was going to make the team next year. I would be surprised. He has been hurt the overwhelming majority of his time in the NFL, and he had a 9-game stretch that I'm starting to think looks like the thing that he is going to remember about his time in the NFL. I want him to come back and be healthy. But like, I watched Dan Campbell's press conference from Monday, and like somebody asked him about Iffy, and he was like, yeah, it's a new thing. It's another new thing. It's going to be a while. And like, they are going to have to activate him from the IR that he's currently on and then put him back on IR again. And he's going to be down for another 4 games, but he's out for the year, basically. And like I guess that you could be healthy. I mean, like they signed Emmanuel Mosley to 2 contracts, and he's in the same boat. But like, I don't know where there are spots on this roster to make a lot of improvement. Like I think that like tight end 3, safety 3, however you want to, if you want to draft a big rookie wide receiver to like play behind Tim Patrick, fine, but that's like wide receiver 5. I think Tim Patrick's getting extended. Like interior defensive line, like I would go a different way with interior defensive line that they have gone, but like I just don't believe in Broderick Martin. Like he's also been hurt. He's he hasn't played meaningful snaps this season. He had a redshirt year last year. I mean, like we're going to be in year 3 before he's even seen the field. Like I think you could add another corner just because there are spots on this team that you just need more and more depth at. Like I think that you could add another linebacker. But like, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about like, we're not even talking about real backups. I mean, we're talking about like, back quarter of the roster kind of additions. And like, if I need a spot for like a first round pick that might be my second safety or third tight end or something, like, and if he's hurt, like I don't want to sign that guy to another contract. Like, and I respect the fact that he played as well as he played last season, especially at the end of the year. But like, he has not demonstrated. I mean, James Houston, I mean, he's in the same position that James Houston was in 2 years ago, where James Houston had a great 8 games and then for whatever reason can't replicate it. I don't know what Houston's problem is. Maybe he was hurt. I've heard that he's in the doghouse. So to me, that means like he wasn't doing what the coaches wanted him to do in practice, which seems ridiculous to me. But like, if he's just been hurt, and like at some point you just have to be like, you can't play for us because you're just hurt all the time. And like, I would rather give that spot to a new rookie contract somewhere on the roster than take a chance on Ife Melifonwu. I mean, like, and I like him. I think that he had like 4 turnovers. Like he produced like 4 turnovers and was an excellent blitzer, for this team, last season. But like it has not just been one injury this year. It's been like 3 or 4 that have caused him to miss time. So, I mean, I don't know what to do with that guy except to say like, we really appreciate all the effort, but like maybe you're a practice squad guy. Like, you get called up if like the rookie that took your job. I mean, this is the shameful part about the NFL is like somebody's just going to take this guy's job. Draft is weak for offensive linemen. My bet is Brad takes one in the first round. Well, that's an excellent segue, Joseph, because we're going to do a mock draft tonight. Mike hates mock drafts. I think they're fun. And PFF has just put on 7 rounds. So we're going to do a 7-round mock draft. But Drew, we don't know the draft order. And like, I don't know the names of the players. That's all right. That's what this process is all about. That's what this process is all about. Is getting to know. All right. So I will make this bigger. There we go. Enter draft. Start the draft. Now, these aren't all going to be accurate. Like what I care about here is like getting your take on what the Lions should do. Now, the Lions in this mock are going to be picking 32, I believe, because Kansas City lost. Okay, so guard, center, edge. Let's talk about it. Do they need an edge? So I think that think about this. Do you go into next season with Hutch, Smith, Davenport, Pascal? So in my opinion, That's Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions want one athletic pass rusher, and then to accompany him, they want a big pass rusher on the other side. So my question is, okay, so Brian's like O-line, D-line, corner. Okay, excellent. Let's keep that in mind while we're doing this. Sam linebacker. I have an interesting thought about Sam linebacker. We'll see if it comes up in this draft. Let's talk about the offensive line. Sewell, Decker, locked in. Ragnow is under contract, I believe, through next season, or 2 seasons from now, 26, I believe. But he's getting closer to 30. He's been beat up. Retirement has been floated out there for him. I think he's just going to see how he feels. But until he retires, you obviously play him. So do you want to draft a center to develop on the roster? Same thing for guard. Like, if we have Christian Mahogany, who I consider to be the first guard next season, like the primary backup at guard. So if Glasgow isn't playing well, can Mahogany push him for his job? Kevin Zeitler's contract's up. He's 34 right now. He's playing at an all-pro level on a winning team. Those are 2 pretty strong indicators that he could come back. But maybe he's just done. Who knows? I would try and extend Zeitler for a year or 2. You have Mahogany. Do you re-sign Dan Skipper? You have Manu poised to what I think would be to take over Skipper's job. So can he do that? Can you let Skipper go, put Manu into that position, and not Iwashika, whose contract is also up, but Mahogany be your primary depth at guard? I don't know if Mahogany can play center. I know Glasgow can play center. So you probably keep Glasgow on the roster. Well, not only because he's signed, but because he can play 2 positions. So do we need another? We don't need a tackle, I think. I don't know that you want to be all in on your 4th tackle. Do you need another center? I think that you're drafting one primarily to be developed if you do that. So do you need a guard? Do you need a guard on this team? So if you would have Sorsdal, Iwoshika, Mahogany, who have all played guard for this team at some point. So do you draft another guy? Sorsdal and Mahogany are still under contract. So you're losing Iwoshika, but he's your primary backup right now. So that is if you put a 1st or 2nd round pick in at guard, like, that's pretty solid. Remember, Mahogany was a 6th round pick. I had him as a 4th round pick, but he just fell to the 6th round. So let's look at what some of our options are. And then, of course, edge. So if you could go into next season and you could have it be like Hutch is the starter, Smith is his backup, and then do you want Davenport with Pascal as his backup as the quote-unquote big end? Let's get into it. We've got Shedeur Sanders on the board at this point. I honestly don't think that he will be here at this point in the actual draft. Tyleik Williams. Siobhan Revel would be an interesting guy. Here's a guy that I think would be interesting. LT Overton from Alabama. So pass rush grade, real good, 78. Run defense grade, great. You're going to have to do both in Detroit. Win rate, 18.5%. That's pretty good. Run stop rate, pretty good. Here's the thing I like about him. He's 6'5", 283. So he's 6'5", 283, and then what year is he in school? He is a junior, so he is 21. So you can add a guy like that. And then maybe you don't need to re-sign Davenport. Pascal would be in a contract year. What about Kaminsky? This would be a guy that you could get 4 more years, 5 more years at that kind of Kaminsky Pascal interior, exterior, big lineman. Some people wanted that kid from Missouri last year, Darius Miller. I don't remember what his name is. He went to the Cardinals. Let's look for an interior offensive lineman here just real quickly. Let's see. Who do we have? I really like this kid, Ashton Gillette, or however you say it, from Louisville. Watch his tape. He's fun. I could see him being a Lion. Like, I just don't see a interior offensive lineman here until like almost the end of the second round. So if we went back and just looked at interior offensive linemen, 59th, 67th, 77th, 82nd. He's too small to play center. I like this kid from A&M, but he's at the end of the third round. I really like this kid from Cincinnati, but he's at the end of the fourth round. So, like, you don't need to do that here. I would either go. I really like this Siobhan Revel kid from Eastern Carolina. Big, 6'3", 193. He got hurt this year. That's why he's not playing right now. But an excellent player. Also, Jody Barron from Texas also kind of looks like a Lions player. But, like, the Lions don't draft like other teams do. The Lions draft a lot for, like, culture fit, intangibles. Are you a captain? Did you play at Iowa? They love Iowa players. That kind of thing. So, like, it's hard for me to look at a position and be like, yeah, you should draft this kid because he meets the size, height, weight, speed, and position, like, things that you need. So I'm leaning toward Overton or Tyleik Williams. So, like, here's the thing about Williams. He's a monster run stuffer. 6'3", 327. That's the right size for, like, a zero tech nose tackle. And, like, I like DJ Reader. He was a good signing. The Lions' run defense is excellent. But he's only signed through next season. So if you sign Tyleik Williams, he could be the DJ Reader of the future. And, like, I know that they like Broderick Martin. They traded up in the third round to get him. They gave him a year off to, like, teach him and, like, get his body right. But this will be almost 2 years that he is not taking NFL snaps. And I don't know how much you can develop if you're not taking snaps in NFL games. And, like, I don't think that just because we have Broderick Martin that you should pass on a Tyleik Williams. So, like, on this board, in this spot with these needs, like, where do you guys think that we should go? Like, I'm thinking corner. I'm thinking, like, LT Overton if you want an edge player, if you want an interior defensive lineman like Williams. But I don't think there is a center or guard worth taking at this spot. Or we could take Shatter Sanders. And, I mean, like, and there's another conversation I wanted to have is, like, Hendon Hooker's been on this roster now for 2 years. He's healthy. He's developing into a quarterback. He got playing time last week. Like, he doesn't look bad. Like, is that an asset that you keep? Or is that an asset that you trade because you ended up getting him in round 3? I don't know. Like, I think there's an honest debate to be had about it. So, anybody have any suggestions for this pick? The old Brad secret sauce in the draft. Eagle Scout, good grade, helps a lady across the street. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they seem to want to go for. All right. Edge, please. We can trade Hooker next year. All right. I'll take Overton. I'm having a really hard time trying to figure out where the Lions can fit 5 guys on this roster from this class. Like, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have a full complement of picks in this class. And what do you do with him? Like, I think that Brad will probably feel that he can, play around. Like, he was very active in the trade during the draft last year. And I think he'll use these picks to go up and target certain players. So I would not be surprised if the Lions were like pretty aggressive when it comes to moving up. Okay, so I have a player here in Trey Harris that I think would be a good foot. 6'3", 210. He's in the mold of that Tim Patrick style player. So excellent receiving grade. Now he plays at Ole Miss, and they have a wide open running style. He's average as far as drop rate. He's average as far as contested catch rate, but relatively deep yards per route run, especially in college. Excellent against man coverage. And he's getting better. 77, 88. He's into 90 right now. He plays mostly out wide. That's where you want him. He can line up in the slot. I think there's a lot to recommend a guy like this, but this would be, you extend Tim Patrick. You extend Tim Patrick for a year or two. You would draft a guy like this, and you're basically treating your incoming rookie class as redshirt freshmen in college. Like, get your body right, sit and learn. Like, let's adapt to the NFL. We're going to develop you, that kind of thing. And then, like, you have, like, Brad has demonstrated over the course of his couple drafts that, like, he wants this kind of thing in place. Like, you sign David Montgomery. Next year, you draft Gibbs. Like, you sign Alex Anzalone. You draft Jack Campbell. Like, he builds redundancies into his position groups. So, like, you trade for Carlton Davis. You draft Rakestraw and Arnold. You sign Amik Robertson. Like, he builds in these redundancies into his draft. So I'm going to take Harris here, mostly because I think that you can get a developmental guard in round 3 and or round 4. And, like, it's one of the few spots I think the Lions could look at adding. Now, the guy goes to Ole Miss, so I don't know that I have some reservations about the overall ethical ramifications of that organization. Oh, this is perfect. I love this guy, Armaj Reed Adams. So the Lions run a little bit more zone blocking scheme than they do like gap blocking, but this guy does both equally well. And, like, he is a good pass blocking guard, but he's also good in the run game. You want to have that. He's played 12 games, 10 games, getting better each season. And this is the most important thing. 6'5", 330. So he's probably 6'4" or 6'3" and 320, based upon, like, how teams lie about how big their players are on, like, their official websites, which is where that data comes from. I know, right? Like, it is. I mean, like, and that's just it. Like, I mean, I think that's really an actually, like, really insightful thing to say, Brian, is that, like, I have not been able to accurately predict Brad Holmes yet. And I think it's largely because I come from, like, a positional value, very formulaic way of building a roster. And, like, he knows who the kids are. Like, he's interviewed the kids, talked to their coaches, watched their film. And, like, last year he said that the Lions only had a first round grade on 14 players. So, like, like, other teams that were good, like the Patriots, have also thought that. Like, there's not 32 first round picks. There's gonna be 32 first round picks, but there's not 32 players of quote unquote worth being drafted in the first round. So, like, it's very difficult for me to predict Brad Holmes, as it should be, because the guy's a fucking genius. I'm going to take this kid from A&M. Position of need. The size is right. He does the two things well that the Lions do in their run game. Third round pick is not a huge investment. Okay, you guys are going to hate me. I really want to draft Quinn Ewers here. Really, 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 really badly. I think he's excellent. And I think the only thing that you can knock Quinn Ewers about is he's a little small. He's not quite the size you'd want to see. And I think that he needs to get into a system and gobble it up. So, like, I think they took Hendon Hooker in the third round. I have a hard time thinking they can get a third round pick back for Hendon Hooker or better compensation for him. So that leads me to believe that like he's probably going to be on the roster if you can't improve upon the pick that you got for him. Maybe you could get like 2 fifth-round picks or something like that, or a fourth and a fifth. But I also think that the Lions should take a quarterback at some point in this class and just start a train of developing quarterbacks in their system. Like they have signed Jared Goff long term. Jared Goff is in no danger of losing his starting position to anything other than injury. So why not have a second and third quarterback on the roster? The second guy can obviously be the clear-cut backup, and then the third guy is your developmental guy. You know, the Lions usually keep a roster spot open on game days for an elevation from the practice squad if they need it, or 2. So, like, I think that they're already used to running it. Like, so if the Lions effectively have a game day roster of like 50 or 51 guys, and then like you have a couple of spots for developmental guys like Manu, Martin, those kind of players, and then a couple of spots for elevations from practice squad players, then I think you're doing it. You know, and like you might as well, I mean, like, if this team is as good as it is through its first and second tier players, I don't know why you can't dedicate like the 49th, 50, and 51st spots on the roster to developmental guys. And if you're going to do that, do it for the most valuable position, the quarterback mark. I'm not going to take Quinn Ewers here. I very much want to. You could draft Denzel Burke from Ohio State. He got absolutely torn apart in the Oregon game. Like, absolutely, like Tez Johnson made him look ridiculous. Like he is just not performing well right now. But like he's 6'1", 193. He's a senior. He plays at Ohio State. Like Ohio State is a national caliber team. I think that you could make the investment and have him be like a developmental cornerback. That kind of thing. Or let's take a look at this guy, Aronde Gadsden from Syracuse. Good receiver. Not as good of a blocker, but like pretty decent. Contested catch is good. 6'5", 236. So he's a little bit smaller than Laporta. You know, and I think that like Brock Wright is very clearly their backup tight end. But what about that third tight end? They have Shane Zylstra, who's been in the rotation now for a couple of years. They drafted James Mitchell in Brad's first draft, who I don't think is going to make the roster. I know that they want their tight ends to be able to do both things. You know, so I do think like tight end 3 is a position on this team, but they do have an H-back player. Is it Hogan Hatton or is it somebody different? They've played a couple times, but I don't know that he's on. I'm going to take this Gadsden guy. But I really we'll see if there's a quarterback, quote unquote, worth their salt on the board at this next pick, I might just snap him up. So what do you guys think of the draft? Oh no, Jay Higgins went off. Oh, I love Jay Higgins. Good Lord, how many picks does it take? So you get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. Miller Moss, not exciting. Jackson Dart would be Cade Klubnik would be a little bit exciting. I love this kid. Andrew Makuba. I was so impressed with I'm a Michigan fan. Texas beat the shit out of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I think this is backup Kirby Joseph, 6 foot 190. He's a little bit smaller. Year in the weight room. This guy played at Iowa, so the Lions will probably love him. 6'2", 215. That's way closer to their player profile. Let's see if I've gotten anybody talking to me here real quick. Nope. You guys are not talking to me. Need you guys to talk. All right, I'm going to take Makuba here. I like this kid. I thought he played great. And he's your third or fourth safety. Can he beat out Brandon Joseph for the backup safety job? Probably. I like Brandon Joseph. But this team's got to continue to get better. However that looks. All right, I'm taking Klubnik now. How big is Gabriel? 6 foot 200. Not big enough. How big is Cade? 6'2", 210. All right, Cade Klubnik, welcome to Detroit. You're our practice squad developmental quarterback. You're fine. You're a fine value here in round 6, round 7, wherever they were. Brady Cook, Thor Griffin really starting to get a lot of Colorado people down here at this point. I had such hope for Donovan Edwards this year. The offensive line has just been so not good. I'm trying to look to see if there's anybody from the Big Ten that I know of down here. All right, I'm going to take this linebacker from Texas. Benda. I think that's probably just like a special teamer pick. Got to stay good on special teams. I earned an award. I'm so proud of my grade. All right. So PFF thinks Overton's good. Good pick. Trey Harris, maybe all right. Reed Adams, that's an A, third round need. B+ on Gadsden, C+ on Makuba. Klubnik, they're always going to award an A+ for drafting quarterbacks. And then linebacker David Gemenda. Overall, a B+. Not too bad. I would be pretty happy with this, but I was going to say the Iowa guy, Drew. The Xavier, the safety, Joe? Xavier Nwanka? Or which Iowa guy? Oh, you like it? Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. So, of course, Brad might just completely knock our socks off and be like, okay, we're at 32. What do we do it when we have pick 32? We trade up. Can you? He has moved from 32 to 12 once. If Brad and Dan like it, it must be the right picks. Let's hang on one second. Let's do this just real quickly. This is what the draft actually went like. I wish that I could make this bigger and so I could see all of the picks. So let's just start at 10. Pick 10. Luther Burden, Malachi Starks, Kevin Banks. Okay, so let's say God, there's just not a ton of guys that I would move up for. Let's say Abdul Carter from Penn State was on the board at say pick 9. I don't expect that he will be. He might be the first edge taken. But for some reason he flips. Maybe more quarterbacks are taken highly. What if like picks 3, 4, and 5 are all quarterbacks and they're overdrafted, and that pushes Carter down the board, and like you have Detroit sitting here with like, we'll give you first and third and a second next year or something like that to move from 32 to like 9 to take a guy like Carter. Like, I mean, no one saw the JMO pick coming. So, okay. So Xavier Nwanka. Okay. Thanks, Joseph. I will keep that in mind the next time that I do a draft for them, and we'll see how he slots in. I do think that he fits the size profile way better than the guy that I took from Texas, Bakuba, but not playing as well this year right now. So, but I respect your opinion. I think that's a good one. What if he moves up? That kind of thing. So, I think it's certainly a possibility. The thing that I like about the mock drafting is that it shows me how few spots there are on this roster to add new players. And like, if Brad really wants to get aggressive, sign the guys whose contracts are up after the season. Bring a Manley Mosley back for like number 3. Like, what if you extend Davenport or Zeitler? Or those kinds of things. Like, if you do that and reduce your needs down even further, that should give you more flexibility as you go into the draft. And I think that this team has prioritized having flexibility when they have gone into the draft. So I could see that as a very real strategy for the Lions as well. And maybe as we get closer to the offseason, we can take a look at what would it look like if I would love to look at Brad's big board. I would love it. That would be worth the drive to Detroit for me and back. I would just be like, and then why this guy? And then why this guy? And why do you like this guy? And what does that guy do? Why this guy and not this other one? Oh my God, such a nerd. Condense them picks. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll take a couple weeks and come up with a plan for like what it looks like if Detroit goes heavy on the re-signing. Let me see how much money we're playing with here next year. Cap space 25 projected. The Lions are projected to have $62 million in cap space. So they will sign, even if they sign JMO, Hutch, and Kirby, and even Pascal to contract extensions, those contracts don't hurt next year's contract, like next year's deal. And like, they went into this offseason with like 30 million, 40 million bucks to play around with, like for elevations from the practice squad, that kind of thing. And so I would imagine they will probably want to keep around the same kind of money. So it's going to depend on like how much they're able to roll over from this year's cap to next year's cap, and then who they want to extend. But like for 30 million bucks, I imagine you could probably extend every guy that we've talked about. Patrick Zeitler, Mosley, Davenport, all the guys on the back end, Awashika, Nyman, Nowatzki, Ukwu, like all of those guys, you would be able to re-sign for 30 million bucks and then make your extensions. So I would expect the same for any first rounder. Yeah. And you're going to need 12 or 15 million dollars for your rookie class. I mean, but like if they trade up a bunch, and they take 5 players instead of like 7 or 8, I mean, that's going to knock it down a chunk. Yeah, maybe it won't, because like the higher up you go, the more of those contracts are, right? And so it probably, like, moving up in the first probably knocks off a couple of guys off the back end of the round 6 and 7, type of players. So what do I know? Anyways, guys, that is the end of the show for today. I'm starting to lose my voice. We're at Indy this Sunday, right? It's not let's see what time the game is here. 1:00 on the 24th. And then we've got the Bears on Thanksgiving. So we will know what the Colts are, and we will preview the Bears game on Thanksgiving this time next week. I really hope that you guys had fun. Oh, appreciate it. No, Brian, I would Nerds Unite. Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Really appreciate you guys like hanging out with me. I would love to talk about this stuff for even longer. I'm sure you guys would too. Appreciate the thanks. Mike would always say like, comment, subscribe, like help expand the community here a little bit. So I hate saying that, like the like, comment, subscribe. I don't want to beg for engagement, that type of thing. But if you know anybody that likes the Lions and you think would like listening to us talk about it, or wants to talk to you about it on our show, tell them about it. You know, we have a great community here. People lift each other up. They don't tear each other down. We want to consider other people's thoughts and about like what the Lions are and what they might be in the future and that kind of stuff. And I really like our group that we've got so far. So if you think someone else could add to it, we'd love to have them. You know, and it doesn't need to be for the Lions. I mean, we have fans of other teams that are part of the community, and so, you know, just keep an open mind, I suppose. And anyways, hopefully we'll be back here 10-1 next week, talking about a 30-point win over the Colts. Oh, I should probably give my score prediction. I'm going to say 35-20, Lions over Colts. So I don't know what the betting line is, but I'm betting that this team has just been lights out offensively the whole year. So I don't see any reason why that would stop. So hopefully I'm right. Hopefully you'll join us. Have a great week, everybody.